attempted to brush the attacks aside. They took a toll.
He told me that he valued his family dearer than any other things in the world, he says. If the fans started to abuse my wife and son, that would be the end of my playing days, he said. And that was a time when he decided to quit.
I remember one time, he just picked me up from work. He mentioned that he has resigned from the national team. And I say, why? Why? When? And he says, this morning. I look at him, why? And he says, football is no longer a clean game. I wanted to discuss, but he says, let's drop the subject. I know that resigning from the national team was very painful for him.
But Super-mokh would not be allowed to slip away so easily. After just 11 months, he was called back to the Malaysian team.
He was persuaded by certain people in the football to try to make a comeback for the last time. Like I say, for the love of the game, he'll do anything.
Mokhtar Dahari would go on to captain the national side in the Southeast Asian Games, eventually helping his home state to 10 Malaysia Cup wins in 14 years. But the years of top-level football were taking a toll.
I remember the year was 1986. In 1985, Selangor were beaten by Johor in the Malaysia Cup final. So it was such a grudge match that Mokhtar would want to win at all costs. So he decided that Malaysia Cup final match was to be his last. They beat Johor 6-1 in the final.
After the match, the following day, you will find that, people are commenting that he was playing like a 20-year-old. At that time, he was almost 34 years old. That is why Mokhtar, in the minds of the football fan, he's a super-mokh.
Dan itulah Mokhtar Dahari. Lepas dia berjaya dan dia akan bersara dengan berjayanya.
I cannot forget, after the game, he came to me, he opened his jersey, he said, it's for you, I'm going to retire. We were too happy when Mokhtar said he's going to retire. We were too happy we won. We not register what he say until he give the jersey. After a few days, we realized it.
Mokhtar's focus shifted to helping others as a coach and in other ways.
Mokhtar came to me and asked me this, would you write a book for me? Not so much in glorifying himself, he says, but to serve as a motivation to the young players, to the aspiring footballers of the future of Malaysia. I said, Mokhtar, that would be such an honor for me.
But all plans came to a sudden stop.
Mokhtar came back from training one day and mentioned to me that when he went into contact with an opponent, he just fell, without him realizing that he cannot break his fall.
Jadi dia jatuh terlentang. Jadi semua pemain pun ketawakan dia. Dengan keadaan fizikal dia yang tegap tu, dia boleh jatuh begitu, terlentang. Dia rasa macam dia kurang tidur. Masa tu dia dah baru dapat anak yang ketiga saya yang ketiga. Tapi lama tetap benda tu makin lama makin teruk.
After a few weeks, he felt that he was having a very bad sore throat, and he knew that something was wrong with him. It was late 1988 when he decided to go for a thorough medical checkup, and it was diagnosed by a doctor that he's suffering from motor neuron disease, and Mokhtar didn't know much about the disease that time. So we will just say we will not give up hope. We will go for a second opinion. That is when we decided to go to London, not to seek treatment, but to ask for a second opinion.
Motor neuron disease disrupts the brain's messages to the muscles. Muscle activity becomes erratic and eventually stops. There is no known cure.
I remember I cued the doctor that I wanted to speak to him first before he speaks to Mokhtar. So I talked to doctor, whatever you have to say, you give him hope. You can tell him that he can get worse, he can stay permanently like this, or he will gradually get better. But you can tell me the truth. So the doctor was explaining that usually it will last for about 2 or 3 years. He will start having difficulty breathing, And as promised, the doctor told him, Mokhtar, this is motor neuron, you will get better, or you stay permanently like this, or you get worse.
Tengku was determined to maintain as positive an outlook as possible. Only now she reveals that she cultivated one of Malaysia's enduring myths. The media were told that Mokhtar had muscular dystrophy, a disease with similar symptoms.
The paper keep on telling that he's suffering from muscular dystrophy because I refused to tell it's motor neuron because I don't want people to do research and start telling him that this is the reason. I want Mokhtar to be calm, I want Mokhtar to have hope, and I want Mokhtar to just go through a normal life.
I was 5 at that time when he was first diagnosed with a motor neuron disease. I couldn't comprehend what was going on. So I remember him being weak, he couldn't move around on his own, and he was on the wheelchair most of the time.
Although he is sick, he is still the same person, a joyful person, a loving father. Physically he is sick, but emotionally he is a happy man. He's a normal person for me.
My mom told me that I was his little assistant back then. I would bring him food or newspaper as he couldn't move. I was his constant companion at home.
At first he can walk and then sit on a wheelchair, and then the family tried everything from normal medicine to Malay medicine to Chinese acupuncture, everything.
Banyak kabar-kabarnya mengatakan masa Mokhtar sakit, Mokhtar dibuat oleh orang. Kan? Bagi pandangan saya kenal Mokhtar. Mokhtar tak ada siapa-siapa yang tak ada orang musuh dengan Mokhtar. Tentang ada yang perbuatan orang, saya rasa tak benar lah. Itu tak benar.
In fact, Mokhtar may have been cursed by the very physiology that made him great. Research suggests football talent and motor neuron disease may be linked, with professional footballers 6 times more likely to develop the disease. Research now concentrates on 4 factors: extreme physical exercise, football-related injuries, toxic chemicals used on football fields, performance and injury-related drugs. Of the 4 possible factors, it seems only one can be ruled out for Super-mokh.
But let me put it straight to you lah. You are wrong. He was a straight 100% made in Malaysia. Drug-free, alcohol-free, and nicotine-free. Those are the 3 things that I knew for one, that he never got himself involved with.
The real cause of Super-mokh's illness will likely never be known. The symptoms simply worsened day after day. Only his will keeping him going.
He was such a humble man. And even when he was sick, when normal people would be discouraged and just give up on life, and he's so positive about it and full of life.
Masa dia sakit pun dia melatih pasukan Konjit Bank dengan kursi roda dia. From a big bubbling person with full of energy, suddenly he's ridden to a wheelchair. The body weight about 2/3 of what he was, and then his speech was slurred, his eyes were red, his coordination, his hand movements were limited. Very difficult to describe. It really makes you sick. It really makes, you cry,
But Mokhtar, he himself, he said, well, I've given my all. I've given my all. If it's time for me to go, I'm more than prepared for it.
Tak apalah, mungkin aku ni tak lama lah. Saya cuba suruh ikhtiar lah, mana suruh ikhtiar buat lah. Cubalah buat kan. Dia kata, tak apalah, mungkin aku dekat ni lah.
He knew. In fact, on many occasions, he tried to discuss with me, should I go, but then I would avoid that question.
So I was thinking, perhaps there's something that we can do to really, make him more at ease, make him more comfortable. And that is when the manager of the football team, Dato suggested that he should look for divine intervention. This is where the Mecca trip came in.
The devout Muslim, his wife and young daughter made a pilgrimage to Islam's holy city to circumnavigate the holy Kaaba in the sacred journey known as Hajj.
He sat on a wheelchair and I push around. But there are places where the wheelchair could not be used. I got to carry him over my shoulder, especially when we go down the steps or when we go up the steps. Well, he ain't heavy. He's my brother. On the fourth day, we have to perform the farewell tawaf, that means to go around the Kaaba. Maybe asking God, maybe if God willing, we'll come back again and so on.
But first, they needed to touch the black stone.
The black stone is pushed at the end of the Kaaba. So it is a desire for every Muslim who went to Mecca to kiss that black stone. You must picture yourself that at that time there were thousands of people circumambulating around the Kaaba. So it was about maybe 30 yards away. I asked him, Mokhtar, do you want to kiss the stone? He said, yes. Okay, let's go. So I carried him and walked towards the stone. We were almost there. But about 5 yards before the stone, my trusted legs gave way. Both of us collapsed. We collapsed, motionless. You look at me and I look at you. Now what? But suddenly, out of the blues, somebody, very big, strong person, pick us up, held our neck together, pushed the other pilgrims away, and put us near the stone. He held Mokhtar by the neck and pushed him to kiss the stone. After that, he pulled back and he pushed by it. I kissed the stone. And when we finished, we wanted to say thank you to him. He was not there anymore. Call that intervention? Well, miracles do happen. So we arrived back in Kuala Lumpur. Everything was satisfied.
But by July 1991, Mokhtar Dahari had been fighting motor neuron disease for almost 3 years.
Anda masih menonton ciri khas Indonesian Rises Malaysia di saluran National Geographic bersama saya, Wan Zaliha Radhi. Setelah memimpin pasukan kesayangannya Selangor memenangi Piala Malaysia sebanyak 10 kali, Mokhtar membuat keputusan untuk bersara dari arena bola sepak. Tetapi sebenarnya keputusan itu dibayangi maksud tersirat.
Around 8 something, I think around 8:30, my uncle woke me up, asked us to get dressed to go to the hospital, and that time I complained to him why we need to go to hospital early in the morning, and then he just didn't say anything, just asked us to get dressed. But when I saw my mom at the hospital crying, and at that time I knew that my father had passed away. That thing cannot be described by word. Okay, for a 10-year-old to lose a father, and at that time I just cannot think. At that time I knew that I had lost my father.
On July 11th, 1991, Mokhtar lost his battle with motor neuron disease. He was just 37 years old.